Welcome to this edition of Head to Head. I'm your host, Cam McKinney, and this is episode number 381 of the podcast. And on this episode, I'm talking about Pittsburgh Pirates ace Paul Skenes being the heavy favorite to win this year's NL Cy Young Award. Heading into his sophomore season, there could not have been more hype around Paul Skenes, who was an all-star his first year, won Rookie of the Year, going 11-3 with a 1.96 ERA to go along with 170 strikeouts, and arguably he's been even better with a record of 10-9. The 9 losses has more to do with the sorry state of the Pittsburgh Pirates, a 1.92 ERA, the lowest in the majors, and 203 strikeouts, third most in the big leagues. Baseball currently is at a place where most of its star players are offensive players. You have Shohei Ohtani, I get it, he pitches, but right now he's known for what he's doing offensively. You have Aaron Judge, you have Juan Soto. Because Paul Skenes is a starting pitcher, I look at this guy as the most important figure for the future of baseball. The one thing I think the sport has been lacking in recent years is a star starting pitcher, and it's not all about quality, though Skenes has that in bunches. He has star potential. We have gone to a place where most major league teams do not have adequate number 3 through 5 starters, and there are so many teams that don't even have a legitimate ace level starting pitcher. When I first started to watch the sport, you had Justin Verlander, Clayton Kershaw, and Max Scherzer, and those 3 guys are still around, but they no longer are aces. There's one young pitcher who's also on Skenes' level, and that's Tiger ace Tariq Skubal. Baseball needs Paul Skenes. That is my point. They need a pitcher who is going to be the face of the sport. The 90s had those great offensive players like Mark McGwire, like Barry Bonds, but to go along with that, it also had those great pitchers, Greg Maddux, Tom Glavine, John Smoltz, those 3 pitchers from Atlanta, and also had Pedro Martinez, Randy Johnson. And again, this isn't just about the fact that he's better than 99.9% of other starting pitchers. It also has to do with the fact that right now it is a big deal when this guy takes the mound. It's like back in the day when the Seattle Mariners were playing and Felix Hernandez took the mound. It was a big deal because he was a star. I'm not sitting here saying that baseball needs another guy like Paul Skenes to win 300 games. I'm saying that baseball needs a guy like Paul Skenes who are going to get people excited to watch the sport. Because we all know what they've turned the starting pitcher into, a guy who goes 5 innings, throws 100 pitches, gives up 3 runs, and then leaves the game. But what we are truly all yearning for is to care about the guy who is on the mound to begin a baseball game. Also, nothing takes over the sport like a young star pitcher on the rise. In the 80s, you had Dwight Gooden. When I was growing up, you had Steven Strasburg, who had his moment that sadly did not last long enough. Skenes' success has the potential to bring in newer and younger baseball fans. I talked about this last week with Aroldis Chapman, how baseball has devalued the closer position. In a lot of ways, they've also done that with the starting pitcher. I mean, you used to have baseball teams with 3 players who would win 15 plus games and throw 200 plus innings. Now, it's very rare to have a team have one of those type of players. Skenes is coming at a perfect time because those pitchers that I talked about earlier, the Verlanders, the Scherzers, and the Kershaws, they are going to retire soon, and baseball needs to replace those guys. So now you have Paul Skenes. Tariq Skubal is in the mix. Garrett Crochet is making a case for himself to be listed amongst those 2 as well. The sport of baseball needs as many ace-level starting pitchers as it can possibly get. And I think the face of that new era is going to be Paul Skenes. Because even though he's only in his 2nd season, he's already more than just a flash in the pan. He's going to win a Cy Young Award. There are so many people out there that are cautiously optimistic about his baseball career because, let's face it, there are a lot of things things that happen to starting pitchers. I mean, nowadays, they don't throw a whole lot of innings. Paul Skenes is never going to have a season where he throws more than, let's say, 3 complete games. I heard Brian Kenny of the MLB Network talking about that, how it's impossible to talk about Paul Skenes in comparison to those great pitchers like a Bob Gibson, who was asked to go 9 innings almost every start. And I get what Brian Kenny is saying. My counter argument to that would be is that Bob Gibson was better than the competitors he was going up against. And right now, Paul Skenes is head and shoulders better than the competitors he's going up against. It is a fact that Paul Skenes is not being asked to do as much as Bob Gibson was back in the day. But that to me says more about the sport of baseball than it has anything to say about Paul Skenes, the starting pitcher. Another big reason why people are hesitant to get on the bandwagon of a starting pitcher is because of the inevitability of them possibly having to have Tommy John surgery at some point, and then you go in almost 2+ years without seeing the guy take the ball. I have no idea if Paul Skenes is ever going to need Tommy John surgery. But man, could it really derail the career momentum of a starting pitcher, because all of a sudden you can go from being the best pitcher in the world to not being heard from in almost a year and a half. Jacob deGrom, one of the best starting pitchers of his era, has had the surgery twice. Obviously, you hope that it never happens to Paul Skenes, but at the end of the day, it's an impossible thing to say that it's not going to happen. Right there is the major difference between a star starting position player and a star starting pitcher. A starting position player is likely going to have a 10-year period where he plays in a lot of games and puts up a lot of numbers. But a starting pitcher, I mean, there are so many out there that do not have 5+ healthy years in a row. Chris Sale is a perfect example of that. Before he resurrected his career in Atlanta, he was getting injured all of the time as a member of the Boston Red Sox, and people forgot just how great he was until he came back and won the Cy Young last year. Garrett Cole has won a Cy Young. He was on the Hall of Fame highway. Now he's had Tommy John surgery, and there's real questions moving forward about his pitching career. Now, I think he'll get it back on track, but I don't know. That is the major concern when it comes to modern starting pitchers. It feels like the question isn't, are they going to have Tommy John surgery? It's, when are they going to have Tommy John surgery? And for Paul Skenes, if he ever does have it, I hope it's years down the road. Other than being a pitcher that's about to win the National League Cy Young Award, the most talked about thing when it comes to Paul Skenes is the fact that he plays for the Pittsburgh Pirates. And the sad thing about Skenes is many are waiting for him to leave Pittsburgh, and I understand it. He could conceivably be upset with the fact that not only do the Pirates lose a lot of games, they also don't win enough of the games in which he starts. I mean, I get it. In modern baseball terms, we like to act like wins and losses don't matter, but Paul Skenes should be winning 20+ games right now for the Pirates, but he's not, because the team around him is way below average. From the sense I get from Paul Skenes, he doesn't seem to be the kind of player who one day is going to wake up and demand a trade from the Pittsburgh Pirates. And the team would have to be absolutely mad to trade away Paul Skenes. I get the idea. You trade away Paul Skenes and you can turn one guy into 5 guys. But in this case, that makes absolutely no sense, because the Pittsburgh Pirates aren't going to win a lot of games moving forward anyway, so they might as well just keep Paul Skenes as long as Paul Skenes is willing to be a member of the organization. What I think should happen this offseason is the Pirates give him a big contract to buy out his remaining arbitration-eligible seasons, and then Ben Cherington should do everything in his power to make Pittsburgh a place that Paul Skenes wants to remain seen throughout his entire playing career. And for Pittsburgh, what they should do this offseason is so obvious. Just go out and get good offensive players. If Pete Alonso opts out of his deal with the New York Mets, the Pirates should give him an absurd amount of money to join the team. That's the type of player the Pirates are in desperate need of. A big bopper in the middle of the lineup. The Pirates have decent enough level pitching. They need offense in a bad way. Yes, everyone loves the fact that Andrew McCutchen is still a very good player for the Pittsburgh Pirates. But the other side of that coin is that it's sad that he's still one of their best offensive players. This is a guy nearing the end of his career, and he's still better than most of the players he's playing with. For that fact, McCutchen is third on the team with 13 home runs. Offense, offense, offense. That's what they need to do this offseason. Just bring in some guys that all they do is hit home runs. Paul Skenes is going to want to be there if you give him enough run support. I don't think it's about the market. I don't think this is a guy who desperately wants to pitch in New York for the Mets or the Yankees. I don't think it's about that. I think it's about him becoming one of the best pitchers in the league, and for him to do that, I do think he needs to win more ball games, and for that to happen, the Pirates need to be a better team. I brought up Felix Hernandez earlier. I mean, that was a guy who just accepted the fact that the Mariners were never going to give him enough run support, and he just stayed with the Mariners, even though so many people thought he should have left that team for a team like the Red Sox, Yankees, or Cubs. Jacob deGrom is another example. I mean, the Mets never gave this guy enough run support, and he still went on to win the Cy Young Award, not once but twice. I just don't know if a pitcher of Paul Skenes' stature is going to be as accepting of a team not giving him enough run support. Nor do I think he should be that accepting of the fact that they don't score enough runs for him. He should be upset. He should be a guy about to win the Cy Young Award who's won 25 games this year. That's how good he's been. But instead, he has a 10-9 record because the Pittsburgh Pirates are the Pittsburgh Pirates. I don't know if I'm necessarily rooting for Paul Skenes to remain a member of the Pirates, especially if they don't deserve him, but I do think it would be a bit boring to see him just join a team like the Yankees because they're the team that has the money. I don't want this to come down to money with Paul Skenes. I think in the case right now, he would have a justified reason to be upset with the team. They are not scoring enough runs. They are not a good baseball team. But if they improve drastically this offseason, and who knows if they will, I would want him to consider staying with them if they become a better team. Right? Because isn't that a little bit part of this Paul Skenes story? Is it's not only the fact that he's amazing, it's the fact that he's amazing right now for the Pittsburgh Pirates, not a very good baseball team. Just imagine what he could be on a great team. Wouldn't it be great to see Paul Skenes start a postseason game for the Pittsburgh Pirates? That is what he should be chasing right now, and I hope that's what the team is chasing. But the big question is, how much losing does Paul Skenes have to endure, especially when you think about the lifespan of a pitcher is not as long as it used to be. I mean, how many dominant seasons is Paul Skenes really going to have? And is he going to waste all of that on a bad Pittsburgh Pirates team? How many managers is he going to play for? And who am I kidding? Money is going to become a factor at some point. The Pittsburgh Pirates are not going to be willing to pay Paul Skenes $200+ million. That's the assumption I have and that most people have. Next year very well could be the make it or break it year for Paul Skenes and the Pittsburgh Pirates. I mean, if they are still this bad come this time next year, Paul Skenes is going to want out of Pittsburgh. And absolutely everyone would be on his side. Even more so with a starting pitcher because they can only impact 1 out of every 5 baseball games. So when a star starting pitcher wants out of a team like the Pittsburgh Pirates, most people are going to go, yeah, I understand where this guy is coming from because he's giving it his all. He's the best player on the team and he has to watch them lose almost every other night he's not playing the sport. What's going to be fascinating to watch is how Paul Skenes would play it if he really did truly want out of Pittsburgh. Would he be vocal about it, or would it be a more quiet thing, like just all of a sudden one week he's traded away? And Skenes leaving Pittsburgh at some point is probably going to happen. I just really do hope that the team finds some kind of success. I mean, they're used to losing star players. Barry Bonds left Pittsburgh for San Francisco, but he at least went to the postseason with the team. The Pirates as an organization are just not at a place where you can really take them seriously. Looking at the two guys who are probably going to win the Cy Young Awards this year, in Paul Skenes and Tariq Skubal, they are in opposite situations. Paul Skenes is the best player on the Pirates, a team going absolutely nowhere, where Skubal is in the middle of a playoff run on a team that is expected to make it to the ALCS. The starting pitcher is without a doubt the most individualized position in the sport of baseball. Yet Skubal is getting a lot of credit, and rightfully so, for where the Detroit Tigers are right now. And when you talk about Paul Skenes, all you can really talk about is the stats, because the Pittsburgh Pirates are lackluster. Getting back to my thought that Paul Skenes is likely going to be the future face of the sport, for that to eventually happen, he probably needs to go on a team that is going to make the playoffs. I just hope at some point that is the Pittsburgh Pirates, because that's the best version of that story. I mean, the Pirates get lucky, they land this guy in Paul Skenes, he proves himself to be an elite level pitcher, and then he becomes the face of a team that turns itself around. This bears repeating. The absolute worst case scenario is the Pittsburgh Pirates trading away Paul Skenes for 5 to 7 prospects. Absolutely no one would be on board with that. Again, I get the idea in theory. You move away from one generational talent in hopes of getting 2 to 3 in return. That's all fine and well, but Paul Skenes is currently 23 years old and has a career ERA under 2. And most importantly, your fan base and fans of baseball are invested in this guy's career. He is the only reason myself and others are even talking about the Pittsburgh Pirates currently. There's literally no other reason to ever bring up the Pittsburgh Pirates right now. When it comes to a player like this, you only move on from him if he wants you to move on from him. You don't willingly move on from Paul Skenes. 2 years, not even. It's really a year and a half with Paul Skenes is not enough time to see where you can really go as an organization. It should all come down to this offseason, and the quest is simple. Bring in the big bats to get Paul Skenes and the other pitchers on the staff run support. And then you can do this kind of crazy thing that other teams do. Try to win baseball games right now. And the other big reason you should not be moving on from Paul Skenes is because he's only 23 years old. The best is still yet to come. He's about to win a Cy Young Award at 23 years old, and I don't think this is going to end up being his best season as a starting pitcher. He's going to win more Cy Young Awards. He's going to have more dominant seasons. He's only going to get better. And he is playing the one position I find right now to be irreplaceable, an ace-level starting pitcher. You're not going to get that in any trade involving Paul Skenes. You already have that in Paul Skenes. So yes, you should keep Paul Skenes. My hope, and I think we're headed there, is the next 5 to 7 years of having endless conversations about who's the better starting pitcher, Paul Skenes or Tariq Skubal. Again, I don't have the answer for that, but my answer to which one of them has the better chance of being the next face of the sport of baseball is Paul Skenes. This guy is going to be that big if he continues to pitch at this phenomenal level. And the sport is headed in a direction where I think it would be a great thing if the best player playing the sport was a starting pitcher. If Paul Skenes' win total remains at 10, he would join Jacob deGrom in 2018 as the starting pitcher with the fewest amount of wins for a Cy Young Award winner. Again, this is a big victory for the wins for starting pitchers don't matter crowd. I am not one of those. I want to see Paul Skenes win 20 to 25 games a year, and hopefully he gets to do so as a member of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Thanks for listening to this edition of Head to Head. I'm Cam McKinney, and there'll be a new episode of the podcast every Monday on Apple Podcast and Spotify, so please rate, review, and subscribe.